Hey everybody, this is a video on the vocabulary of the periodic table, learning about how the periodic table is organized. So in here, we're going to go over about 15 different vocabulary words. So what I would like you to do right now is to kind of pause the video and write down these 15 words and phrases, okay? Groups, periods, families, blocks, stair-step metals, nonmetals, metalloids, main group, transition metals, intertransition metals, and then alkali metals, alkaline earth metals, halogens, and noble gases. These are the vocabulary words that we're going to go through in the video, and in order for you to get them down into your notebook, you're going to need to pause the video and get them down so you can define them as I go over them. Okay, so now that you are ready to go, we have these vocabulary words, and so how I'm going to define them is by actually using them and pointing them out to you in on a periodic table. So I have a periodic table up here. Okay, the thing to keep in mind here is that the periodic table is organized in a lot of unique and interesting ways. Okay, and this is the periodic table from webelements.com. And this, again, I've said it a million times, that this is one of my favorite online periodic tables, although there's one shortcoming on this table that I will make sure to tell you. Okay, but the first thing that I wanted to start is by defining is what a group is. Okay, you'll notice here that it says group right here, and the groups are the up and down columns on the periodic table, and groups are numbered 1 through 18. Okay, that's what these numbers are on the periodic table. Okay, so the up and down columns on the periodic table are called groups. And so if we look at this element right here, manganese, that's in group 7. If we look at iron, that's in group 8. If we look at oxygen, that's in group 16. Okay. Now, in the same way, if we're labeling the up and down columns as groups, the periods also get numbered, this going this way. So the periods are the left and right rows going across the periodic table. So what this does is sets up a grid sort of format that if we look at group 4, period 4, that's going to give us titanium. Okay, Sia would be proud. Okay, if we look at group 6, period 7, that's seaborgium. Okay, right here. So by having groups and periods, at the very least, we have functionally been able to figure out where things are in the periodic table just by some sort of coordinate system. Group 12, period 5. Okay, group 12, period 5, cadmium. Okay. The other couple of big organizing terms is families. The groups going across the periodic table not only have numbers, but some of them have names. And so we call some of the groups by certain family names. Okay. And so, for example, group number 1 has a family name of the alkali metals, which is another phrase on your list of phrases to know. Okay, so the only difference between groups and families is that groups, all the columns are numbered. Not every single one of the columns have a family name. Many of them do, but a lot of them don't. There's no family name for group 4. Okay, there's no family name for group 8. Okay, but there's a family name for group 17. Those are called the halogens. Okay, so families, you always refer to families, much like in real life, and not just chemistry. You always refer to families by their name, and you refer to groups by their number. Okay. The other part of the periodic table that helps organize this are the blocks. You'll see that this periodic table has this blue block and this yellow block and this red block, and then down here is this green block. Okay, the blue block is the S's. That's called the S block because we learned about electron configurations, and so the S block is where the S electrons are. Okay, the P's, this is the P block over here because again that's where the P electrons are. This is the D block, and then down here this is called the F block. Okay, so those are different blocks of the periodic. And when we say block, we mean chunk. Okay. So now the periodic table is divided by metals, nonmetals, and metalloids. But the way that we do this is the one thing I don't like about this periodic table, is that on most periodic tables you'll see what they call a stair step. Okay, that goes down just like this. Okay, and so it's really straightforward that anything on this side of the stair step are metals. Okay, so a metal is anything to the left of the stair step, and these are non-metals. And then anything that touches the stair step, these are called metalloids. Okay, and so the example is when you, or not the example, but the description is like when you look at some of these elements that are to the left on the metal side, we think of silver, gold, iron. Okay, we think of nickel, cobalt, chromium, titanium. You know, we think of all these things that are traditionally metals. So, I mean, it makes sense that the left-hand side of the periodic table underneath the stair step are metals. And then conversely, when we think of the thing on the right-hand side of the periodic table or on to the right of the stair step, you know, we think of oxygen, nitrogen, you know, helium, neon. You know, we think of things that are actually non-metals, or, you know, things like the gases and things like that. So that's the how that works. And then anything that is touching the stair step, like silicon, is a metalloid. So a metalloid is a compound, is an element that touches the stair step, but it also has properties of both metals and nonmetals. And so when you think of computer chips are made of silicon. And silicon is so valuable because it's kind of like a metal. It conducts electricity and does stuff, but it's also kind of like a nonmetal. And so it doesn't conduct electricity totally crazy. So that's that part of the periodic table. Okay, so there's metals, nonmetals, and metalloids. The next part of the periodic table that we need to realize is that all of these guys, the D block, kind of even all the way kind of to the stair step, including these elements that I've drawn through, these are what we call the transition metals. Transition metals. Okay, so it's the D block plus it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements here. Okay, well, maybe even those elements. Okay, so it's 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's including tin and bismuth and gallium. So it's those elements. Okay, it's not counting the S block. So it's the D block plus some of these guys. Okay, and so then there's the transition metals plus here, these guys down here are the inner transition metals, because the inner transition metals, remember, get inserted into the periodic table right here, so they're kind of just even more inside the transition metals. Okay, now the only part of the periodic table that hasn't been labeled in this type of thing is this here, and then these guys over here. Okay, and so this is the main group. Okay, these are the elements that are kind of most common when we think of elements in, we think of carbon and oxygen and hydrogen and, sodium and potassium, like kind of like the elements of life. It's not exactly true, but so the main group is the S block plus most of the P block. Okay, but it's slightly different because, again, remember, these elements are part of the transition metals. Okay, and then the last thing that I wanted to go over were some of the specific family names. So there are 4 family names that we're going to go over. Okay, this first, group 1, okay, these are the, like I said previously, these are the alkali metals. Okay, and then group 2, all of these are the alkaline earth metals. Okay, and so this is group 1. Group 1 here is the alkaline metals, and then group 2 is the alkaline earth metals. They have very similar names, and so, make it a little more challenging for you to remember. Okay, and then the last part is group 18. These are the noble gases, which you may remember from doing other things in this class. And then group 17, these are called the halogens. Okay. So if we look at our list of all the vocabulary that we need to know, we talked about groups. That's the vertical or the up and down columns on the periodic table. Periods, which are the rows, the horizontal rows. Families, which are the named groups on the periodic table. And then the big blocks, the 4 sections. There's the stair step that splits the periodic table through the P. That looks like this. And then if you're to the left of the stair step, those are metals. If you're to the right of the stair step, those are metalloids. If you're on the stair step or touching the stair step, those are metalloids. Did I say to the right is nonmetals? I hope so. And then there's the main group, which are the 2 big tall towers on the periodic table. The transition metals, which are primarily the D block, but also include a few of the P's. The intertransition metal, which is all the F blocks, and then the specific names of the alkali metals, the alkaline earth metals, the halogens, and the noble gases. Okay, so that's it, and I hope this helps with the vocabulary. Again, really riveting video stuff, right? Okay, have a great day, everybody.